Hearing his question, Crystal Dong replied, "Very smoothly, sir. It's just that the aberrant marrow is being consumed a bit quickly. A quarter of it is already gone." Seeing that Luke Saint's absorption ability was excellent, Yu Fei said, "Although his performance is better than his peers, he is still just a child. Pour in all the reserved aberrant marrow. We must achieve the best possible effect." Suddenly, the aberrant marrow pod let out a beep. The machine operator reported in a panic, "It's bad, it's bad. Something major has happened. The aberrant marrow in the reserve tank has already been completely drained. The current amount in the pod is the last of it." The aberrant marrow in the pod was rapidly decreasing. General Yu Fei was also extremely surprised. "What? When I broke through to Grandmaster, I only absorbed half a pod." Immediately, the general pointed and said, "Quickly, go search the warehouse and bring it here." Crystal Dong replied, "Yes, sir. I'll send someone to bring the aberrant marrow from the warehouse." "Now what?" Yu Fei moved closer to the pod, looking at the young Luke Saint through the glass and thinking, "I want to see just how big of a surprise this kid will give me." Very quickly, the aberrant marrow was replenished. Inside, the young man continued to absorb it. A golden aura quickly enveloped Luke Saint's entire body. He took the opportunity to both absorb the aberrant marrow and practice the astral body refining art. At the aberrant marrow machine, a golden light radiated from all sides. The aberrant marrow was rapidly decreasing again. And of course, as long as he didn't stop absorbing, the aberrant marrow was continuously replenished. Large barrels of it were poured into the tank. In the machine, the marrow kept depleting, all of it quickly absorbed by Luke Saint. Everyone was terrified as the aberrant marrow depleted at an unstoppable rate. It was gone as soon as it was poured in. One person reported, "Gee, General, should we continue?" Yu Fei's expression was resolute, and he said decisively, "Keep feeding the kid. Let him eat his fill. I refuse to believe he can absorb the entire aberrant marrow supply of this entire vast military region. Pour it all into the tank for me." Giant barrels of aberrant marrow were continuously poured into the tank. "This is incredible. The immense energy this marrow provides might finally help me complete the first stage of the immortal golden body. And this is just level 4 marrow. If it were level 5, level 6, or even level 7, it's unimaginable." The operator asked again, "Should we continue, General Yu?" At this point, the general collapsed to the ground in disbelief. He was probably about to have a stroke. His hands trembled, but he remained firm in his decision. "More. Keep pouring until he can't absorb any more. Damn it, if this kid doesn't join my Eastern military region after this, I'll skin him alive. Because one of these vials costs $1 billion, and I've already spent $10 billion. And that's just the cost price." Inside the tank, Luke Saint could clearly feel the changes in his body. "I feel like several volcanoes are erupting inside me. My blood and chi are boiling like magma." The bones throughout his body have been dyed a golden color, dazzlingly bright. This is inner force. I've officially passed level 3 and entered the ranks of a level 4 martial artist. Luke Saint looked at his hand with excitement. "My process of advancing from level 3 to level 4 is completely different from others. They just generate inner force, but I not only have inner force, but have also successfully cultivated the first stage of the immortal golden body. This physique of mine represents a huge breakthrough. My entire body's combat power has undergone a terrifying improvement like never before." A golden aura flashed throughout the tank, causing the protective glass to crack. The operators of the aberrant marrow section were utterly terrified. Yu Fei was shocked. Luke Saint has absorbed all the level 4 aberrant marrow. The entire military region's reserves weren't enough for him alone. Seeing this scene, General Yu Fei was filled with anticipation. "My God, is there a black hole hidden inside this kid's body? What kind of monster is he?" His future wife, Crystal Dong, could only stand there speechless, her cheeks unconsciously blushing red. Inside the tank now, the smoke was thick. Suddenly, the young Luke Saint sat up, and a golden aura lit up the entire room. Then the young man quickly put on his shirt, feeling like he had grown taller. Stella, Rex, and Jaden stood outside, trembling, unable to believe what they were seeing. Rex Shing gritted his teeth. Why? Why is he so strong that I have no hope of catching up? No, I should say he's so strong that I can't even imagine it. Why? If even Rex Shing couldn't imagine it, what were Stella and Jaden to do? The two weaker ones were speechless. Seeing this, his future wife Crystal Dong had to sigh. Luke Saint, you've become stronger than me. In just 2 short months, it's truly amazing. Suddenly, General Yu Fei called out loudly, Luke Saint, which made the young man very surprised. Yu Fei's voice boomed again. Take a hit from me. The general's strength was not to be underestimated. Blue energy radiated from his entire body. Crystal Dong was extremely worried and shouted, General! The young Luke Saint was now extremely confident, his entire body emitting fire. He quickly clenched his fist, then took a stance to receive the blow, flames blazing fiercely. Yu Fei was inwardly pleased. Good kid, you got some of his spirit from back then. The two attacks collided with a deafening boom. The operators of the aberrant marrow room fled in chaos. The shockwave radiated out powerfully. Rex Shing was shocked. Is this a clash between two grandmasters? But Luke Saint was knocked back, sliding a long distance, his body staggering. Then the young man looked up and said, General Yu, you used a bit too much force. I just broke through to level 4. At this point, he landed and asked, Level 4? Ha, golden bones and jade muscles, the image of a grandmaster. Your combat power is no less than 500,000, and you still say you just advanced to level 4? Luke Saint shrugged and replied, But I really am level 4. Suddenly, Yu Fei lost his patience and grew angry. I don't care if you're level 4 or not. You absorbed nearly 15 billion worth of my aberrant marrow. Hitting you with one punch is letting you off easy. Believe it or not, I'll give you another. At this point, the aberrant marrow room was in chaos. The young Luke Saint looked at the mess and broke out in a cold sweat. At this moment, Quintan, seeing Luke Saint block General Yu's punch, also held his head, his eyes wide and mouth agape. Hey, are you kidding me? General Yu is a proper level 7 grandmaster. The combat power of a direct punch is at least 1 million, yet Luke Saint blocked and completely nullified it. The group of Stella, Jaden, and Rex were also sweating profusely. Stella's eyes went white, and all 3 of their mouths were agape in disbelief. Luke Saint walked away, looking handsome and cool. Jaden Xiao was trembling so much he could barely point. He seemed to be on the verge of laughing through tears. We had to compete with a guy like that. I've never heard of a Genesis star this terrifying. Stella was so scared she looked like she was about to faint, her soul leaving her body. Crystal Dong glanced over, looking at Luke Saint while listening to Instructor Tan speak. This Luke Saint kid, he's stronger than me now, and he's only 18. He hasn't even taken the national exams yet. Suddenly, Quintan's eyes widened in shock. He exclaimed, Wait, the national exams. Crystal Dong heard this and also started thinking. A moment later, Crystal Dong was extremely satisfied, her face and eyes filled with confidence. This year's Dragon Ascent champion is definitely Luke Saint. Rex Shing still had some lingering doubts. Although I knew I wasn't as strong as him, I really didn't think the gap would be this big. Super combat power of 500,000. A level 4 martial artist with a combat power of a peak level 6. So what happens when he reaches level 5 or level 6? His combat power will probably break 1 million. Not a grandmaster, but surpassing a grandmaster. Furthermore, he has already shown his grandmaster's will. His path to grandmaster is already laid out for him. Just thinking about it makes our Luke Saint seem truly terrifying. Rex Shing slumped to the ground, wondering, even the amount of aberrant marrow he absorbed is countless times more than me. Is the gap between us really that vast? Nearby, Luke Saint was feeling awkward with General Yu Fei. He scratched his head and said, I absorbed 1.5 billion worth of aberrant marrow? Haha, General Yu is too generous. Yu Fei returned to his serious expression and replied, all right, no need to thank me. When you get to the battlefield, kill more aberrant beasts. Don't waste the aberrant marrow of our eastern military region. You hear? Then, Luke Saint confidently showed his determination. Of course, going to battle and killing the enemy is the mission of every martial artist. Especially since I've taken so many resources, I must contribute more strength. Yu Fei smiled with satisfaction. Haha, dedicated to your duty without slacking. You're quite like the Grand Marshal in some ways. He turned his back and laughed loudly. The next time we meet, I'm afraid you'll already be a Grandmaster. I'll look forward to that day coming soon. His future wife, Crystal Dong, approached Luke Saint and said, Luke Saint, the Genesis Star selection is now completely over. You can now focus all your energy on the national exams. She asked Luke Saint with concern, Have you thought about which university you'll apply to? He asked, Instructor Dong, do you have any good suggestions? Hearing this, Luke Saint didn't seem to understand Crystal Dong's meaning. She advised him, with your current strength, you can choose any martial arts university in the Dragon Country. And in our eastern region, the best university is Dongning Martial Arts University. You're from Dongning Province yourself. After enrolling there, you'll receive great benefits and advantages in all aspects. The young man put his hand on his chin, his eyes wide in thought. Dongning Martial Arts University. That's Crystal Dong's alma mater, isn't it? But Crystal Dong continued, If it were a month ago, I would definitely advise you to go to Dongning Martial Arts University. Crystal Dong held up one finger, full of confidence. But if it's now, I suggest you go to the capital. Because the capital has the 7 great Saint Martial Universities, the origin of the Dragon Country's martial arts, a place of immense development. The top martial arts talents of the entire Dragon Country gather there. It's a real den of dragons and tigers. Crystal Dong even used body language to express her point. Even if you can break the record of the Saint Martial Tower, you might gain the attention of a martial saint. Entering a martial saint's sect gives you a very high chance of breaking through to the level 8 Great Grandmaster realm. The young man, Luke Saint, was extremely curious upon hearing this and exclaimed, A martial saint. Crystal Dong gave Luke Saint a look, her brow raised. Then she continued, The martial saints are the pinnacle of this world. They possess martial power almost beyond imagination, and they also hold absolute authority, even reigning above the power of the military and the nation. She continued. She introduced him. The Dragon Country currently has only 3 level 9 martial saints. The Ultimate Path Martial Saint, Zhao Ji, the Bright Jade Martial Saint, Tan Zhongyu, and the Dark Star Martial Saint, Lin Chengwei. Hearing this, the young Luke Saint broke out in a sweat, thinking, in the Fire Seed system, the highest level in this world is level 9. That means the martial saints are the absolute top. Crystal Dong continued, So I can't decide for you, because I can feel it. Looking at Luke Saint's appearance, she said with great expectation, Your future can go further than anyone else's, not even inferior to a martial saint. Hearing this, Luke Saint broke out in a cold sweat. I didn't expect Crystal Dong to think so highly of me. His eyes turned sharp. A level 9 martial saint. I possess 3 supreme cultivation methods of level 11. In the future, I can definitely surpass the title of martial saint. Quinn Tan, standing nearby, heard their conversation and thought, That's a bit of a high expectation, isn't it? Luke Saint is only level 4 now, and she's saying he's not inferior to a level 9 martial saint. But he quickly dismissed his thought. No, maybe my vision is too narrow. The talent he possesses is unheard of. Maybe it's not impossible. Crystal Dong continued. Even in the Dragon Country's military, the highest rank, the Grand Marshal, is only a level 8 Great Grandmaster. As for a level 9 martial saint, there isn't a single one. Luke Saint asked her, why not? Isn't it just one level difference? Can't the entire military's resources be used to help one person break through? Quintan approached and said, it's not as simple as you think. Creating one level 8 Great Grandmaster has already drained all the top-tier resources of the military. We have no idea how many resources it would take to reach level 9. And there's an unimaginable gap between level 8 and level 9. Crystal Dawn continued with a solemn face. To have a level 9 martial saint is my old wish, and also the wish of the military. She looked at him and said, so, as a lieutenant colonel in the Eastern Military Region, I should advise you to stay in the East. That way, there's a higher chance you'll join the military in the future. But our wishes shouldn't become a chain that binds you. Your path should be decided by you. Hearing these words from Crystal Dawn, the young Luke Saint suddenly remembered the wedding photo of himself and her. At this moment, he broke out in a sweat, lowered his head, and sighed. Then, the young man clenched his fist confidently. Thank you, Instructor Crystal Dawn. Thank you for your concern for me. Just as I promised General Yu, stepping onto the battlefield to protect our country is the lifelong duty of a martial artist. I will never forget the support and care the Eastern Military Region has given me. Hearing these words, Crystal Dawn was very happy. Then her cheeks turned a lovely shade of red as she replied, that's good. So cute. Even I'm falling for her. Quintan, seeing the two of them facing each other with their faces red as tomatoes, was utterly confused. Instructor Tan's eyes widened, his hand covering his mouth as he exclaimed, oh, ho ho, what's this scene that's even making me blush? Crystal continued her conversation with Luke Saint. Luke Saint, the selection is over, and there are still a few days before the university exams. Take this time to go to the Psychic Association and pass the test. It will make it easier to log into the Martial Net. Luke Saint, naturally a man. Luke Saint nodded and smiled. All right, I'll pack up a bit and head out right away. Crystal Dawn watched him turn to leave, hesitating as if she had more to say. He probably doesn't know. As soon as Luke Saint walked out the door, Quintan went to tease Crystal Dawn. We've known each other for so many years, but I've never seen you make an expression like that. Do you have feelings for Luke Saint? Crystal, embarrassed, pretended to fiddle with her tablet and replied, what nonsense are you talking about? I don't have any feelings for him. It would be strange if she didn't. Then 2 bumps appeared on Instructor Tan's head, and Instructor Dawn stormed off in a huff. She quickly ran to a wall and hid behind it. Then, her face turned as red as a tomato, and the 2 words, Luke Saint, appeared in her mind. Oh my God, they say when a girl says no, she means yes. The next day, in the airspace of Dongning Province, a helicopter was hovering at a low altitude, its engine roaring. On board were Crystal Dawn, Luke Saint, and Instructor Tan. The helicopter door was open, and the wind was blowing in fiercely. The whistling of the wind, combined with the roar of the helicopter's engine, made conversation difficult. Crystal Dawn stood behind and shouted, Luke Saint, are you sure you want to get off here? The young Luke Saint was already standing at the door and replied, here's fine. It's deserted. Crystal Dawn was worried about the young man and suggested, then wait for the helicopter to descend a bit more. I'll drop the rope ladder. But Luke Saint didn't understand the girl's intentions and quickly replied, no need. With that, he leaned back, waving goodbye. Instructor Dawn, goodbye. Hey, young man. Instructor Tan is also on the plane, but you only say goodbye to your future wife, Crystal Dawn? So blatant. Luke Saint had already dropped down. Crystal Dawn was extremely worried and, despite the danger, stood at the helicopter door looking down. Observed from above, Luke Saint was just a tiny speck in a vast forest. Very quickly, he was about to touch the ground. Instructor Tan, seeing this thrilling, high-risk stunt, exclaimed, damn, does that kid have a death wish? It's at least 200 meters from here to the ground. He doesn't have a parachute, does he? Crystal Dawn reassured Instructor Tan, and also herself, while her heart was pounding with worry for Luke Saint. It's okay. He definitely won't fall to his death. Don't forget, his strength is far greater than mine. Hearing these words from Crystal Dong, Quintan felt a bit less worried. True, but he's really crazy. Luke Saint plummeted down, his body enveloped in a dazzling golden aura. Below in the forest, a boy and a young man were walking. The boy spotted the scene and pointed up, speechless. The young man next to him shielded his eyes to see what it was. The boy looked terrified and grabbed the young man's hand, asking, is that a superhero? Luke Saint was now hurtling down, his aura growing stronger. A bit surprised, and taking a closer look, the man in orange replied, "No, that's a martial artist. A very powerful martial artist, at least level 6, possibly even a martial arts grandmaster." As Luke Saint flew, he felt it. My entire body, skin, muscles, bones, even my internal organs, has undergone a massive transformation, completely surpassing a normal level 4. I have a defensive talent that's even more terrifying than a level 5 or even level 6 martial artist. A drop of water falling from a great height will shatter on the ground, and so will a rock. No, we'll just crack the ground. Boom! A massive sound, the earth trembled. Dust and smoke filled the air. This was the moment Luke Saint landed. The young man was enveloped and protected by a dazzling aura, and the dust swirled around him. After the smoke cleared, the young Luke Saint was standing tall, with a large crater behind him. He looked into the distance. That's Dongning City. Luke Saint's body moved. After level 4, inner force spreads throughout the body. Even now, inner force is still being generated. He jumped down, thinking it will probably take a month to complete the entire generation process. But strangely, my inner force is golden. Other martial artists' inner force is colorless. As General Yu Fei said before, golden bones and jade muscles. The image of a grandmaster is enough to show the power of the immortal golden body. Luke Saint smirked with amusement. It's the golden light effect every time I attack. This is truly stylish. Super awesome. Top notch. Dongning Province is up ahead. I'll quickly go to the Psychic Association to complete the assessment, which will make it easier to log into the Martial Net. I heard that if the assessment results are good, I can even get extra points for the national exams. After thinking, Luke Saint shot forward like a rocket. The man in orange and the kid happened to see this scene. Both couldn't believe their eyes, their mouths agape, breaking out in a cold sweat. So young. He's really so young. This is impossible. He must have used some kind of technological device to land safely like that. Just as he finished his thought, the young Luke Saint had already vanished. The man in orange was stunned, unable to believe what he had seen. This time, he told the kid something else to make it more plausible. There are no superheroes. They're just filming a movie, son. Very quickly, the young Luke Saint arrived at the Psychic Association. Besides the person standing next to Luke Saint, there were 2 young women and a bald old man being tested. Seeing the old man playing with a purple orb and a stream of energy, Luke Saint thought to himself, so this is the test. The orb then turned pink and wobbled between the old man's palms. He was trying very hard. Just a little more, don't touch it, trying so hard. Just as he said that, the orb hit the blue wall on one side, causing it to crack. The orb then turned purple and rolled on the ground. The bald old man held his head and cried out, failed again. The young lady next to him, Lee, was recording the results. The bald man's eyes went white, his face filled with disappointment. This is my 6th time taking this test. Then Lee turned and said to the bald man, at your age, it's very difficult to make a new breakthrough. Go back home. You don't need to come again. Lee continued to announce, Fei, it's your turn. This is your 3rd time, right? Seeing that Lee seemed to think she had failed too many times, Fei retorted, so what? What's it to you? I was a level 1 psychic at 20. Now I'm 25, and failing the level 2 test is perfectly normal. She then glanced at the bald man and said, that old man is almost 50. We're not the same. Okay. Lee didn't bother arguing with her and said, all right, you can start. Suddenly, she stopped. Who is this kid? Jean Xian, next to her, introduced him. He was recommended by Lieutenant Colonel Crystal Dong of the Eastern Military Region. Be polite. Seeing him, Shui Fei exclaimed, so young. He's also a psychic. It's true that handsome guys get noticed by girls wherever they go. Seeing the young Luke Saint, Shui Fei winked at him. She rested her chin on her hand, staring at him for a long time without blinking, thinking to herself, but this little brother is quite handsome. Then she leaned over and asked him, "Hello, little brother. My name is Tiffy. I didn't expect you to be a psychic at such a young age. Is this your first time taking the test? If there's anything you don't understand, you can ask me. I can teach you." Luke Saint replied coolly, "Thank you. It is indeed my first time taking the test here." Was what happened just now the content of the assessment? Tiffy explained to Luke Saint, "That's right, there are 3 parts in total. First, a machine tests the intensity and purity of your psychic power. Then, there's an operation test. Within a time limit, you have to control a specified number of small solid iron balls and guide them through a glass wall without touching the glass. But this glass wall is very thin and fragile. Even a light touch from the iron will shatter it. The person just now was taking the level 1 test, so he only needed to pass through 1 layer. But level 2 requires passing through 5 layers. With that, Tiffy sighed. Your level 1 is still considered easy. Level 2, like mine, is incredibly difficult. Oh heavens, please let me pass the test smoothly. I don't want to come here for the 4th time." At this point, Lee called her again. "Tiffy, it's your turn." She slowly walked towards the testing area. "I'm coming." Her expression was serious. She went to the testing area and placed her hand near the stone that was emitting a golden aura to be tested. The screen quickly displayed the results. Psychic power intensity, 11.33. Psychic power purity, 1.02. Tiffy was overjoyed to hear this, her face radiant. "Phew, I met the standard." They also added, "Not bad. You've met the basic psychic power standard. Next is just the control operation." Lee led Tiffy to the next step. She pointed to the marbles and the glass layers in front of them and said, "Same rules as before. 15 solid iron balls. Control them through 5 layers of glass." Luke Saint stood by, observing intently and listening carefully. Lee took out a stopwatch and announced, "The time limit is 20 seconds. Tiffy closed her eyes, showing her determination, and replied, "Let's begin." Tiffy's eyes blazed. A pink energy radiated from her body. Seeing this, Luke Saint thought, so that's how it is. Simultaneously controlling 15 solid iron weapons is a considerable burden for a level 2 psychic. Tiffy began to guide the marbles through the glass layers, needing to remain completely calm and control her psychic power. Otherwise, the slightest fluctuation from the iron weapons would shatter the glass pane. At the same time, she had to control 15 balls at once. The operation had to be carried out with extreme caution. It was not simple at all. At this moment, Tiffy was extremely focused and determined. She was guiding the iron balls towards the glass layer. Her pink energy had also enveloped the balls. As the balls got very close to the first glass layer, Tiffy was already breaking out in a sweat. The balls slowly passed through the first glass layer. Tiffy was overjoyed. "Great! I passed the first layer smoothly." She focused again, determined to keep going just like that. The second layer was successfully passed. Tiffy adjusted her position. The third layer passed. After smoothly passing through 3 glass layers, Tiffy was extremely excited and thought to herself, "I'm about to reach the 4th layer. I can break through to level 2 psychic today." At the peak of her excitement, her spirit soaring, Lee's words were like a bucket of cold water on Tiffy's face. "Time's up." First attempt failed. The iron balls fell to the ground one by one. Tiffy sat there panting, both angry and frustrated. Damn it. But she quickly regained her composure. "Phew, it's okay. That was just a warm-up. Let's do it again." Once again, Tiffy continued to control the balls. Luke Saint stood behind, observing the situation. After a long while, the young man mumbled, "This is quite interesting." Lee asked Tiffy if she was ready. Second attempt. Tiffy was in position. "Begin." It was the same familiar glass layers. Tiffy focused intensely to control the balls. First layer passed. She clenched her fists. All right, just like this. Give my all. Then she quickly guided the balls through the second layer, the third layer, and the fourth layer. Passed. Still 12 seconds left. There's hope this time. Tiffy carefully controlled the iron balls. The 15 balls quickly approached the glass layer. They were passing through the round holes in the glass. Suddenly, a cracking sound was heard. Cracks immediately appeared on the glass layer. Tiffy cried out in alarm, her eyes devoid of emotion, her mouth agape. She could no longer stand and collapsed to the ground. The balls also fell one by one, and she was in a state of utter disappointment. She mumbled, failed again. Lee asked, "Do you want to try again?" At this point, Tiffy no longer had the patience or strength to continue. So she lowered her head sadly and replied, "No, I'm still too weak. I can't pass it." Suddenly, the young Luke Saint's voice came from behind. "No, you can pass." He explained fluently, "You have the ability to pass. You're just doing it the wrong way. Use your brain a little more. Don't just follow with your eyes. Look further ahead. That's the wrong way to do it." Hearing these words, Tiffy was extremely curious and turned to ask Luke Saint, "Huh? What do you mean?" Luke Saint explained and analyzed meticulously for the new acquaintance. "Your method just now was to adjust the position of each ball in front of the glass, then pass through the glass, then adjust the ball for the hole in the next glass. This method isn't exactly wrong, but it takes too long and requires a lot of psychic power. What this test needs is the calculation ability of a psychic. At the beginning, you have to decide which hole you will guide the iron ball through." Hearing Luke Saint's words, Tiffy's eyes tensed up. Luke Saint continued, "Then treat each hole as a point. Connect this point with the next one. That is the complete path. What you need to do is control the 15 balls to complete 15 different paths." Hearing this made Tiffy extremely surprised. How does a level 1 kid know things like this? Luke Saint approached, bent down, and took Tiffy's hand, asking, "Isn't that much simpler?" What an opportunist. Tiffy was very surprised by this action and stammered, Oh, that seems to make a lot of sense." Lee, standing nearby, heard Luke Saint's logical analysis and had to exclaim, "You're very smart, but it's not that simple when you're doing it. Right? No one can determine 15 paths in such a short time and simultaneously calculate the distance of each hole and the speed of passage." But the young Luke Saint retorted, "You're wrong. For an ordinary person, this amount of calculation might be huge, but for a psychic, it's not worth mentioning." With that, Luke Saint demonstrated on the spot. Watch closely. This sentence from Luke Saint made Tiffy freeze. Luke Saint took all the iron balls from the box and said, "I'll only demonstrate once." Seeing all the iron balls from the box being controlled by Luke Saint and flying up, Lee was startled. This, controlling all the solid iron balls. The young Luke Saint raised 2 fingers, his eyes blazing as he commanded, "Go." After the young Luke Saint's command, the balls began to fly up and gather into a cube. Then, the balls lined up and approached the glass layers below. The balls passed through the round holes on the glass surface one by one. In a flash, all the balls had passed through the first layer. Luke Saint continued to control the balls, and a dazzling blue energy radiated from his palm. Thousands of iron balls were about to pass through, not just one glass layer, not even 10, but over 50 glass layers at once. For our hero, this was truly too simple. Luke Saint retrieved the iron balls and said, "The thinking is very simple. You just have to execute it in order." Seeing Luke Saint do it so quickly, Tiffy was stunned. Luke Saint turned his head and asked, "Excuse me, Judge, how many seconds did that take?" At this point, Lee trembled and said, 11. No, exactly 10 seconds. Both she and Jean Xian were wide-eyed with astonishment. The young Luke Saint, with his hands on his hips, replied, "Not bad for the first time doing it." The 3 words "first time" from a young Luke Saint made the blonde Tiffy exclaim in shock. "First time?" Luke Saint turned to stare at her and asked, "So, did you see clearly?" Her eyes were wide, and she was breaking out in a cold sweat. In her mind, she was in awe, the skills of God. Then she smiled brightly and replied, I saw clearly. But how in the world did you do that? I really don't understand. Looking at Luke Saint, she thought, it's like a magician performing magic in front of me. Although I can see his every move, I can't understand how it's so miraculous. Lee was sweating, analyzing in disbelief. In 10 seconds, controlling a large number of balls through dozens of glass layers with thousands of holes, this would require a colossal and incredibly complex calculation to even be possible. Lee quickly turned to Jin Xian next to her. Quick, quick, go get President Jiang. Something big has happened. The young man quickly replied, yes. Cut to the president's office. At this point, the bald old man, Jiang, was grimacing with displeasure. My hand is too small. Having a teammate like you is really unlucky for me. He gritted his teeth in frustration. Damn it, even with level 4 psychic power, I can't become a card shark. The young man ran to President Jiang's office. He didn't even knock and just burst in, shouting in a panic, President, it's urgent. Please check the data on the computer immediately. The old man quickly replied, what's all the panic about? But as he checked the computer, he was also startled. Hey! Then the young man whispered in his ear, it's like this, and it ended like that. After hearing it, the old man was sweating and asked back, is that true or a joke? Jin Xian held up the screen and continued, why would I lie? That person named Luke Saint is about to start his psychic index test. Look, through the computer screen, President Jiang saw Luke Saint placing his hand on the yellow stone to test his psychic power. A powerful light radiated from Luke Saint's palm, illuminating the entire area. The two young women could only shield their eyes because the light was too intense. Lost track, Jiang bit his nails and wondered, what's with this dazzling light? At this moment, the results appeared on the screen. Psychic power intensity, 435.87. Psychic power purity, 126.02. The results made our two young women's jaws drop. Their eyes were wide with astonishment. Tiffy even pointed at the machine with a look of doubt. Is the machine broken? The numbers are too terrifying. Lee was sweating cold, thinking the standard for level 1 psychic purity at the association is 1. Even the standard for level 4 is only 10. Our president is only a level 4 psychic. And this person in front of me, with the face of a high school student. Looking at Luke Saint, she was also stunned. His purity is more than 20 times that of a normal level 4 psychic. What does this mean? Is this even possible? Haha, this is too surreal. At this point, President Jiang ran from his office to the testing room. He called out from a distance, Lee. After arriving, the old man was panting. He pointed at the machine and asked, Lee, check if the machine is broken. Does it need repairs? Lee quickly replied, President, the testing machine isn't broken. It accurately tested the other two just now. If you don't believe me, you could try it yourself. Luke Saint crossed his arms and asked calmly, is there a problem with the numbers? Jiang raised his hands in a gesture of peace, but he was still terrified and trembling inside. He said, Mr. Saint, we don't mean anything by it. It's just that your results are so astonishing. It's hard to believe. May I ask if you are a descendant of a level 7 Grandmaster or a level 8 Great Psychic? The young Luke Saint answered honestly, I don't have such a powerful family. I'm just a kid born in an ordinary home. You're President Jiang, right? The final test. Please begin. Jiang had to use a towel to wipe the sweat from his forehead. Mr. Saint, with your strength, do you still need to take the final test? Isn't that a bit too much trouble? Luke Saint was very truthful. Luke Saint quickly replied with confidence, no trouble at all. It's just a small, simple test. With that, the young man had already started controlling the iron balls. They also quickly started the stopwatch. Starting time. The time was 1.88 s. The balls quickly followed one another, moving along the path laid out by the test. It was a very winding path. They passed through the glass layers very quickly, forming the shape of a powerful green dragon. The time was now 2.02 s. Luke Saint was determined. I could be faster. The balls continued to pass through the holes in the glass with ease. The time was now 4 seconds. Very quickly, all the balls had passed through. The young man, Luke Saint, looked on with confidence. My second time doing it, I'm a bit more skilled. The time should still be under 5 seconds, right? With the stopwatch in hand, Lee replied, for 0.5 seconds. It really is under 5 seconds. Even just pressing the stopwatch, her hands felt the pressure. Tiffy was still trembling, muttering, this operation is several times harder than before, yet the time is shorter. And the reason being my second time doing it, I'm a bit more skilled. Haha. Looking at his calm demeanor, it's clear this isn't Luke Saint's limit. President Zhang's mouth was agape. This power is at least approaching the level of Grandmaster-level psychic control. I feel like I've been hit in the face with 100 rockets. Rocket here refers to a pair of jokers in poker, a winning hand. He sighed. The new generation surpasses the old. This is too monstrous. The previous generation refers to the older, more experienced individuals. He timidly said to Luke Saint, Mr. Saint, your strength has been recognized by our association. I will personally prepare your certificate and medal for you later. He rubbed his hands together and smiled. But here, we can only issue a certificate up to level 4 psychic. You'll need to go to the higher level association in the capital to be certified as a psychic above level 4. Is that all right? Luke Saint scratched his head and replied, sure. Also, President Jiang, I'm just a high school student about to take the national exams. Don't be so tense. This sentence almost gave the old man a psychological trauma. Tiffy was sweating profusely, stammering, young, Mr. Luke Saint, may I ask how old you are? The young man quickly replied, 18. What else? Do you all think I look like a high school student, but am actually an old monster who's lived for hundreds of years? The young Luke Saint jumped up excitedly. 18. Young and strong. Ho ho ho. Tiffy blushed and asked back, how did you know what I was thinking? The young Luke Saint jumped up excitedly. 18. Young and strong. But he just shook his head and replied, stop reading so many fantasy novels. Then he crossed his arms and said, I'm taking the college entrance exams in 2 months. If the psychic certificate helps me get extra points, I wouldn't have come here for the test. Tiffy glanced at Luke Saint, her expression adorable. Luke Saint, I still have one more chance to retest. Should I try again? Of course, you should try if you have the chance. You can still pass. Just relax a bit. With that, the young man hugged the girl. What an opportunist. This action made Tiffy jump and blush with embarrassment. It's embarrassing, but whatever. The young man, Luke Saint, held her waist with one hand and her hand with the other, guiding her patiently. See, just like this, feel the ball. Seeing Luke Saint holding her hand, Tiffy's heart pounded. She probably thought, this kid is so young, yet so opportunistic. After being personally guided by Luke Saint, Tiffy seemed to have more spirit to control the ball skillfully. In a flash, Tiffy saw all the iron balls pass through many layers of glass and was extremely excited. Oh yeah, I passed successfully too. Tiffy was happy, smiling brightly as she turned to look at Luke Saint. The young man also felt happy and said, see, it wasn't that hard. It's because you're a good teacher. President Jiang was also happy and announced, congratulations to both of you for successfully passing the test. Let's have dinner together tonight to celebrate the birth of the second level 4 psychic in Dongning province. The young man, Luke Saint, went to shake President Zhang's hand. Thank you, but dinner together isn't necessary. Then, seeing the sincere enthusiasm and hospitality in their sparkling eyes, the young Luke Saint had to reconsider. He was forced to accept President Zhang's invitation. All right, I'll go. Both President Jiang and Tiffy cheered when they received Luke Saint's acceptance. Then, President Jiang added for this VIP guest, Mr. Saint, our association has a dedicated hotel for guests. Please rest first, and we will come to pick you up in the evening. Hearing this, Tiffy enthusiastically volunteered, I have a car. Leave picking up Luke Saint to me. She placed her hand on her chest, looking very reliable. Watch the next video. After reaching the parking lot, Tiffy even opened the door and invited Luke Saint to sit. Being handsome truly gets you absolute preferential treatment and care. But Luke Saint just said, okay, and got in the car. Thank you. Outside, President Jiang waved. Then we'll meet again. From inside the car, the young man also waved back. All right, goodbye, President Jiang. The car quickly drove away while President Jiang was still standing there waving. The small car sped along the road, weaving past other cars. The young lady Tiffy was blushing as she drove, sneaking glances at the young Luke Saint in the mirror. She thought to herself, on the outside, he's just a normal young man. Who would have thought he's actually a level 4 psychic genius that even the president of the Psychic Association has to respect? So young and handsome, with an amazing body and terrifying talent. After staring at the young man for a while, she held her head as she remembered. Normally, I only meet those second-generation rich kids who are good at showing off and bragging. They're really a bunch of scum, a bunch of mobile pieces of crap. Thinking about their I love you, Fei lines made her feel nauseous. While thinking about Luke Saint, Tiffy suddenly realized something. She glanced over at Luke Saint, her face breaking out in a sweat. It turned out the handsome young man was also staring intently at her with a strange look in his eyes. Tiffy was startled, her eyes wide and mouth agape as she thought, wah wah wah, Luke Saint is looking at me. What does he mean? Could it be? She lowered her head, tense, wondering if he meant something. It can't be. I've only known him for a short while. Suddenly, the young lady had a confident thought. Wait, boys in their prime often like beautiful older sisters. I'm pretty good looking, right? My figure is also amazing. And I happen to be the mature older sister type. It's fine. An older woman and a younger man is a classic combination. It can work. While dreaming of seducing the young man, Tiffy suddenly had another thought. She slammed on the gas. That's right. You have to seize the opportunity, Tiffy. So, of course, Luke Saint sat there, bewildered, not understanding what was happening. Tiffy was the type who wouldn't back down in love, and she was a pro on the racetrack too. Vroom, the car sped off like the wind. The end. Screech. Tiffy suddenly slammed on the brakes. What a skill driver. Her face was bright red, and her head was practically smoking from overthinking. She stammered, We're here, Luke Saint. The young man, not understanding a girl's psychology at all, just turned to get out of the car quickly. Oh, thanks. You've worked hard. Tiffy was still stammering. That. Next, not knowing if the young man understood the hidden meaning, he quickly replied, All right, you should go. Tiffy was startled, her eyes wide as she turned to Luke Saint and asked, Huh? Go? Why should I go? The young man quickly informed her. You were speeding just now, plus you ran 5 red lights. Now there are 2 police cars chasing you. Tiffy was horrified. Her eyes went white. Trying to hit on a guy is so tough. The young Luke Saint continued. Even though you're psychic, you should drive a little safer. Tiffy slammed on the gas and sped away. Her voice echoed from the car. Mr. Saint, I'll come pick you up tonight. Cut to the hotel room. On the TV screen was an image of Helena Ha. But he mumbled, Helena Ha is doing quite well, isn't she? The TV reported, starting today, the Hang Tian Dong Pharmaceutical Company of Baihe City will be renamed to the Hu Han Lin Saint Pharmaceutical Company and will also launch a new product, the Spirit Foundation Strengthening Soup. Helena Ha introduced, This is a medicine that will change the era. It will redefine the existence of supplements. The progress of the world's martial arts will enter a completely new stage. Luke Saint, hearing the new announcement from Helena Ha, clicked his tongue. Changing the name and launching a new drug without even telling me? After all, I'm a largest shareholder with 90%. At this point, Luke Saint finally checked his phone. There were many missed calls from Helena Ha. He had been too busy charming girls to check. All right, it seems it's my fault. Then, the young man collapsed onto the bed after a long, tiring day. Forget it. I'll go back to Baihe City tomorrow. I'll explore the dream world for a bit to see how far this Lin Saint Pharmaceutical Company will develop. In the dream world, a lot of information quickly appeared. Wow, not bad. Helena Ha really has some skills. With just a basic version of the Spirit Foundation Strengthening Soup, she managed to grow the company to a value of several hundred billion, and it's even a leading pharmaceutical company. That's pretty amazing. At this point, the young man had a very different view of Helena Ha. And it seemed the young man had also seen something unusual. Continuing to Helena Ha's personal information, husband, Lieutenant General of the Eastern Military Region, Luke Saint. Reading this, the young man was so shocked he fell backward. What is this? AI. Investigate my personal information. Please. So, the young man was shocked for the second time when he saw his own information. His mouth agape, what the hell? Wife, Lieutenant Colonel of the Eastern Military Region, Crystal Dong. Chairwoman of the Board of Lin Saint Pharmaceuticals, Helena Ha. Highest rank, Lieutenant General. The young man mumbled, Crystal Dong and Helena Ha. 2 wives. The young man seemed to want to bow to the system, or rather, to his own life. What kind of person am I in the future? Why are there so many surprises in the spouse section? Will a third wife pop up later? A moment later, the young man clapped his chest to calm himself down. Phew, calm down. The future is illusory. Anything can happen. It will change again soon enough. So, then he said, right AI, search for the Spirit Foundation strengthening soup. But the AI shook its head. Your authorization is insufficient. You cannot search for pharmaceutical formulas above level 5. Luke Saint smirked to himself. As expected, my idea is viable. I released the Spirit Foundation strengthening soup in Martial Era 300. After 10,000 years of development, it went from an ordinary, unclassified medicine to a precious pharmaceutical product above level 5. If that's the case, I just need to continue releasing things from 10,000 years in the future into the present. Then the research on that part of human civilization will have an additional 10,000 years to develop. It can definitely be taken to a whole new level. Then, will the world that was destroyed in the future change because of this? Then he ordered, AI, search world history. As expected, there really is a change. The time of destruction has been pushed back by more than 10 years compared to the last time I checked. That means one portion of the Spirit Foundation strengthening soup, after 10,000 years of development, will buy human civilization more than 10 years of existence. So what about the 3 supreme cultivation methods of those level 11 Grandmasters? If I release them to the world, could it change humanity's fate of destruction? But Luke Saint's eyes flashed with disappointment. No, not to mention whether releasing these cultivation methods in Martial Era 300 can save the future of human civilization. But once released, it will definitely shake the world. The current order will be shattered in an instant. Society will surely become a mess. And my family and I will immediately become the center of the storm. God knows what the outcome will be. After thinking for a while, Luke Saint grew tense. Furthermore, if even this can't save humanity's future, then the last fire seed left on me by the martial arts of 10,000 years later will be completely destroyed. Humanity's future will have no hope left. Luke Saint knelt on the ground, feeling it. The best way is to wait until I have a certain level of strength, until I can completely control the entire situation, then slowly release those cultivation methods. Remember to subscribe to my channel to support me. The weak humanity of Martial Era 300 needs a proper guide. Looking out over the entire city from above, Luke Saint seemed to realize his responsibility. And that guide can only be me. After waking from the dreamscape, Luke Saint was full of confidence and told himself, because I have a date with a girl tonight. So the young man also dressed up very nicely. Wearing a very elegant and luxurious suit, he was incredibly handsome. The ladies would surely be drooling over him. While adjusting his clothes, the young man suddenly remembered, oh right, I still haven't replied to Helena Ha's message. So he took out his phone. I have to prepare some new medicinal ingredients for her when I go back tomorrow. Then, the young man messaged Helena Ha, I'm coming back tomorrow. Get the ingredients for 3 new prescriptions ready. Helena Ha replied with only a lazy cat emoji. In reality, at this moment, Helena Ha was frowning and thinking, This brat finally replied to my message. The first thing he says is to prepare medicinal ingredients. He doesn't care about this company at all. Do you know how hard I've worked? Helena furiously typed out a series of sentences, from Luke the labor exploiter to you black-hearted devil, money-grubbing miser, a caveman who only knows money. Your head is full of money, a belly full of schemes, a snake with a honeyed tongue, you stupid pig, you crooked merchant, you utter scoundrel, a bottomless pit of greed. All you know is eat, 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 and eat. Eat what the hell? In her heart, she told herself, I can't help it. Who told me to run into this demon lord? Helena cried her eyes out and then sent 3 words, I got it. Suddenly, at this moment, there was a ding-dong at Luke Saint's door. The young man went to open it. What met the young Luke Saint's eyes was an incredibly beautiful, charming, and elegant Tiffy, like a noble lady. Fei raised her hand with a radiant smile. Mr. Saint, I'm here to pick you up. The party was ready. A sharp gaze, a head of shimmering blonde hair, and a chest that could steal the soul of a young pilot. The young man, Luke Saint, was also elegant and incredibly handsome. He walked over and said to her, Just call me Luke Saint. Mr. Saint sounded a bit strange. Let's go. Seeing Luke Saint, Tiffy was instantly smitten, her heart pierced by an arrow. So handsome. The two quickly set off. They then arrived at the party. In the center of the party hall was a banner that read, Congratulations to Dongning Province's Liangsheng for the emergence of a new psychic grandmaster. Luke Saint glanced around and saw that the hall was very crowded. He asked Tiffy, Isn't this just a dinner? Why are there so many people? Tiffy replied with a radiant face, Don't be fooled by old Zhang's usual appearance. He's actually a top figure in Liangsheng. This is already a small scene after he tried to keep it low-key. The young man, Luke Saint, quickly grabbed a drink and replied, All right, if the old man wants to make a scene, let him have his night. Anyway, I'm leaving Liangsheng tomorrow. At this moment, the bald President Jiang was happily chatting with some ladies. Who knows what he was saying about Luke Saint, but the ladies were giggling. They asked, Really? President Jiang, that sounds too good to be true. He immediately replied, If I hadn't seen it with my own eyes, I wouldn't believe it either. Truly, every era has its geniuses. More girls appeared in the hall. From a distance, 2 girls were approaching. It turned out one of them was Dana Zhang. What a coincidence! The purple-haired girl took a sip of champagne and said, Tonight's party is not simple. Look over there, the mayor of Liangsheng, the president of the Martial Arts Association. Everyone at this party tonight is a prominent figure in all of Dongning Province. She looked at her friend and continued, If we weren't so lucky, we wouldn't have been able to get in. It's mainly because the person who organized this party has a huge background. That's Jiang Jinian, the president of the Liangsheng City Psychic Association. She looked at him having fun over there and said, Do you know how much more valuable a psychic is than a normal martial artist? The purple-haired girl kept chattering on while the pink-haired Dana, Zheng, listened intently. Hearing this, the pink-haired Dana, Zheng, had a feeling. A psychic. I remember Luke Saint once said he was going to the Psychic Association. So she turned to ask the purple-haired girl, Xinwan, can you help me ask if there's anyone in the association named Luke Saint? Xinwan looked at her with a sharp, curious gaze. Luke Saint? I heard from Wendy that you've recently taken a liking to a high school student you met on a trip. Dana Zheng smiled sweetly and replied, No, don't listen to Wendy's nonsense. Xinwan pointed at Dana Zheng and questioned her. Haha, you're still pretending with me? You've been staying in Liangsheng all this time instead of going back to school. It's because you're waiting for that little kid, right? While her friend was questioning her, Dana Zheng kept looking around for Luke Saint. Xinwan swirled her wine glass and continued. I heard he's very handsome, and his background is quite impressive. He even has connections with the Eastern Military Region. Dana, what should I say? Even if you found some poor kid with no background at university to date, I wouldn't object. You're still young, after all. Dating a few more guys is no big deal. You'll break up soon anyway, and he'll just be added to your list of exes. She patted Dana Zheng's head and said, But you've fallen for a high school student. Have you lost your mind? Dana replied. Luke Saint. He's not an ordinary high school student. Xinhuan turned away, annoyed, and took a sip of her wine. Not an ordinary student. My foot. Forget it. I can't be bothered with you. Dana Zheng pushed her hair back, a sad expression on her face as she thought. Ever since Luke Saint and I separated, I've been staying in Liangshan. Because Luke Saint once said he would come to Liangshan sooner or later, I've been staying here. She had sent him so many messages from "Are you there?" to "Good night," "Good morning," and even an invitation to a movie tonight. But Luke Saint hadn't replied, not even read them. Could it be that he really doesn't have any feelings for me? Suddenly, Xinhuan came and patted her shoulder. Dana, why are you spacing out? You're my best friend. That's why I'm telling you this. Then Xinhuan whispered a secret into Dana Zheng's ear. The purpose of tonight's party is to celebrate the emergence of a level 4 psychic, on the same level as Old Man Jiang. Xinhuan started waving her hands and feet to illustrate for Dana. A big shot like that stomps his foot, and the whole Dongning province trembles. You tell me, if we had the chance to be noticed by a big shot like that, our family and ourselves would probably fly off the face of the earth. Dana's mind was full of Luke Saint, so she thought that person was him and smiled, asking, Is that level 4 psychic very young? Xinhuan crossed her arms and replied, I don't know, but since Old Man Jiang is only level 4 at his age, I think he won't be very old, but not too young either. Look, there are a lot of women here tonight, all around 40 years old. The scene now was full of women, with only 1 or 2 handsome men, and many middle-aged aircraft in their 40s. Looking around, Dana Zheng saw that her friend's words made sense and sighed. You're right, it's probably not him. Xinhuan put her hands on her hips and yelled, Dana, why are you still thinking about that student? Forget him. Tonight, we have to cherish this opportunity. In our circle, besides you and me, no one else is qualified to be here. Dana Zheng's soul had been stolen by Luke Saint. She was here, but her soul was with him. Seeing her friend spacing out, the purple-haired Xinhuan called out loudly, Dana, I'm talking to you. Suddenly, Dana saw something and her eyes widened. It was Luke Saint. The image of a young man diligently eating like a machine appeared before Dana's eyes. The young man was eating like an excavator, making the nearby waitress look at him with a judgmental gaze. But the difference was that today, Luke Saint was more handsome than usual, so he was a bit more refined. A moment later, Luke Saint turned back and waved, his face already showing surprise. Dana immediately confirmed, it really is Luke Saint. Seeing the young man, Dana brushed aside her best friend and said, Xinhuan, I'm going for a walk. I saw a friend. Xinhuan was confused. Dana, where are you going? Her friend called after her, but Dana ignored her and ran towards Luke Saint. The young man was holding a plate of snacks in front of him. Dana stopped excitedly and called out, Luke. But before she could say Saint, she suddenly stopped. The young lady Tiffy appeared out of nowhere, wrapped her arm around Luke Saint's neck, and winked. Seeing the intimate scene between the blonde Tiffy and Luke Saint, Dana was stunned. Her emotions did a 180. She stood frozen in place, her face darkening as she watched the two main characters and wondered, Who is that girl? Dana's face was filled with confusion. Who is she? Could she be Luke Saint's girlfriend? Just thinking about it made Dana break out in a cold sweat, gritting her teeth in fear that her chance was gone. But she still couldn't give up. Dana Zheng waved from a distance with a bright smile. Hi, Luke Saint, long time no see. She probably thought to herself, even if the flower has an owner, I have to fight for it. How can I give up on a handsome young man like that? When she heard Dana call him, the young man quickly turned and waved back. What a coincidence. I didn't expect you to still be in Liangshan. Seeing the girl, the young man's face lit up like a flower, his whole body filled with energy. Dana Zheng approached Luke Saint, staring at him intently, thinking to herself, It hasn't been long since I last saw Luke Saint, but he seems even more unfathomably deep now. It was as if there was a 10,000-foot abyss between them, impossible to cross. Seeing a girl enthusiastically greet Luke Saint, Tiffy asked curiously, Who is this? The young Luke Saint quickly introduced them. This is Dana Zheng, a friend. I met her last month while traveling on Mount Oxhead. Hearing this, Tiffy smiled and greeted her. So you miss Zheng? Hello. At that moment, I got to know Miss Zheng. At this point, Xinwan, Dana's friend, approached with a glass of wine and asked with a smile, Dana, who is this? You have a friend. Why didn't you introduce me? Dana immediately introduced them. Luke Saint, this is my best friend, Xinwan. The person standing before me is the Luke Saint I mentioned. Xinwan's eyes were filled with astonishment. Before her was a young man completely different from her imagination. Oh, so he's Luke Saint. So this is how handsome he is. No wonder Dana Zheng is so smitten with him. Everyone, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to my channel. Xinwan quickly assessed the situation. The person next to him is Tiffy from the Schweff family. After seeing this, a condescending thought about Luke Saint appeared in Xinwan's mind. Huh, so that's how it is. No wonder a high school student can get into a place like this. Turns out he's relying on his looks. She thought about our hero with a judgmental attitude, a pretty boy who clings to women to get ahead. After having these shallow thoughts, Xinwan uttered some insincere pleasantries. So you're Mr. Luke. I've often heard Dana mention you. Meeting you today, you truly are a dragon among men. But the young Luke Saint found these words very annoying. His face darkened because he could read people's minds. Luke Saint replied coldly, Hello. Xinwan took a sip of her wine and asked, Pardon me for asking, but where is Mr. Luke from? Luke Saint said. Luke Saint quickly replied, By his city. When asked about his home, the young Luke Saint was very curt. Because his family was very poor, he seemed to have a bit of an inferiority complex. Looking straight at Xinwan, Luke Saint said, Next, are you going to ask about my parents to understand my family situation a little? And while you're at it, ask how I managed to get into this party today, right? Hearing this, Xinwan was stunned. Luke Saint smirked sarcastically and replied, It's exactly as you think. I'm a student born into an ordinary family. We're not on the same level at all. It was just a coincidence that I came to this party. With that, the young Luke Saint waved his hand, turned to leave, and said, All right, let's not play this old-fashioned drama anymore. Save it for something else. I'm leaving. Let's go. After taking a few more steps, the young Luke Saint sighed and thought, I really hate parties like this. Doing that with others watching. Was that a bit too sensitive of me? But my family is the most precious thing in the world to me. I won't allow any kind of insult or harm to them. Seeing Luke Saint's strange reaction, Dana Zheng stood there, speechless. The four beautiful eyes of the two locked, their mouths agape. Tiffy was utterly shocked and called out, A Luke Saint. She looked at Luke Saint with confusion. Why is Luke Saint reacting so strongly today? This is so strange, so different from his gentle enthusiasm the other day. She turned and glared at Xinwan. Then she hurried after him. Luke Saint, wait for me. Dana Zheng stammered, Wait. Seeing her best friend following Luke Saint, the young lady Xinwan angrily growled, Forget it, Dana. A person like that is not worthy of your affection. Her eyes flashed with anger. I haven't even said anything, and his reaction is so intense. What does that prove? It proves that he's guilty. He cares about what he just said. He has no real ability, but his pride is sky high. To put it nicely, he's arrogant. To put it bluntly, he's pathetic. She tilted her head and looked at Luke Saint with contempt. I've met many people like that. He's not worthy of you at all. You must have noticed the girl standing next to him, right? Looking at the two of them from behind, Xinwan introduced her. Her name is Tiffy. You probably know the Schweff family, right? Also, I heard she has passed the level 2 psychic test. In the circle of the second generation of Liangsheng, she is definitely a well-known figure. Look at how intimate they are. In my opinion, this Luke Saint must have used his looks or some other trick to hook Tiffy to get a chance to come at tonight's party. Then, Xinwan yelled in Dana Zheng's face, Snap out of it, Dana! He's just a man who clings to women. Open your eyes and see his true face. But Dana Zheng didn't think so. She backed away and said, What are you talking about? Luke Saint him? How could that be? After talking so much, she was a bit tired. Xinhuan sighed a few times and continued. I know the truth can be cruel sometimes, but this is a reality that everyone has to face. I'll stop here. You can figure out the rest yourself. But no matter what anyone said, Dana's heart remained as steady as a tripod. In her mind, Dana Zheng always held Luke Saint in high regard. No, Luke Saint. Luke Saint, he. She opened her eyes wide and looked at the male lead. When I saw him, he was radiant, as bright as the sun. He was the hero who saved me. Then Dana Zheng slapped her own face to snap out of it. Her expression was serious. I'm really crazy. I actually suspected Luke Saint was a pretty boy. Then Dana Zheng confidently turned to Xinhuan. Xinhuan, Luke Saint. He is absolutely not that kind of person. After talking so much and her throat being dry, she still couldn't change her best friend's mind. Xinhuan was sweating profusely and confused. Dana, what's wrong with you? Just then, a voice from the hall said loudly, Look, President Jiang is here. Turning to see President Jiang, Xinhuan changed her demeanor. Her face lit up like a flower as she said, Dana, stop thinking about that pretty boy. The president is probably about to introduce the level 4 big shot. You should get ready. From a distance, President Jiang saw Luke Saint and Fei Fei. Immediately, he walked over to Luke Saint and even proactively extended his hand. Seeing this, Xinhuan's jaw dropped in astonishment. Why is President Jiang going towards that pretty boy? Could it be? President Jiang approached with a warm smile. Mr. Saint, I'm so sorry. I didn't realize you disliked such crowded parties. Luke Saint quickly replied, It's all right, President Jiang. It's my duty to help with such an important matter. President Jiang said. President Jiang sighed and replied, Phew, thank you for your support. He then stood in the middle of the crowd and announced, Everyone, please listen to me for a moment. He pointed towards Luke Saint and announced loudly, This is the genius who has just emerged from our Dongning Province's Psychic Association, the level 4 psychic, Luke Saint, Mr. Saint. He smiled happily and said, Mr. Saint is only 18 years old this year, but compared to him, an old man like me is truly ashamed. Huh? The young ladies in the hall, seeing a handsome young man who was also a level 4 psychic, were amazed. A level 4 psychic? Oh my God. What? Only 18 years old. That's truly terrifying. He hasn't even taken the national exams yet. Countless praises and words of admiration were showered upon our Luke Saint. A heroic and outstanding person, an absolute talent. Witnessing this scene, Xinhuan couldn't stand firm. She collapsed to the floor, her mouth agape in utter surprise, stammering, Huh? Him? Him? At this point, Dana Zheng spoke up. Xinhuan, do you see now? Like stepping among the stars, a figure as radiant as the sun. This is him. Dana Zheng looked at Luke Saint with a secret crush. This is the real Luke Saint. When she learned that Luke Saint was a level 4 psychic, Xinhuan's mind went blank, and she sat on the floor in a daze. Her eyes were wide with bewilderment and shock. She couldn't believe what she had heard and seen. A long time later, she calmed down a bit. She thought to herself, How could it be him? No, I have to at least make up for my rudeness earlier. Then Luke Saint calmed down a bit. Then she struggled to her feet and patted her best friend on the shoulder urgently. Dana, you have to help me. Dana Zheng replied with a sad expression. Do you see that crowd? They're all holding out their business cards, but Luke Saint is acting like he doesn't see them. In front, everyone is bowing 90 degrees and offering their business cards, but he doesn't care about those things at all. He's already rejected all of them. Even people with power and influence are being rejected at the door. Do you think I have a chance? With a dejected expression, Dana Zheng continued. Even I. It's just unrequited love. He's already too far away from us. This relationship ended before it even began. A while later, the young Luke Saint left the party and got into a taxi. Feeling that the air was now less suffocating than at the party, the young man said to the taxi driver with a cheerful face, Master, to Baihe City. After a headache-inducing month, Luke Saint sighed and thought, I really don't like this kind of social interaction. At least I showed up for President Jian. Luke Saint was satisfied and returned home, with his family and martial arts as his companions. This is the life I want. It seems in the end, I'm still just a high school student from an ordinary family. The taxi sped along. Very quickly, they arrived at Baihe City, the young Luke Saint's familiar city. As soon as he got home, his mother happily opened the door to welcome her son. "Sheng, you're back." Luke Saint's mother cheerfully pointed and said to her precious son, "Go sit at the table. I'll get you a bowl and chopsticks." His mischievous younger sister, Lu Qinghe, asked with wide eyes, "Big brother, when did you get back?" His father smiled, his eyes crinkling with joy. Xiao Sheng is finally back. Then his younger sister, Lu Qinghe, even ran up to hug her brother in utter shock, her mouth agape. "Brother, how did you get so tall after just one trip?" The young man was also very witty and humorous, striking a pose and replying to his sister, "I only grew a little. It's you who got shorter." "Ha!" The young man's answer left Lu Qinghe speechless. Luke Saint looked at his younger sister and continued, "School's out recently, right? I'll test your strength later. Don't forget the message I sent you before I left. If you haven't improved." Then he clenched his fist, raised it, and gave a dangerous smile. Hee hee. The martial arts medicine I sponsored isn't that easy to get. Luke Saint's mother brought a large bowl of steamed buns to her son and said happily, "Should sit down and eat." Seeing the food, the young man's eyes lit up. "Yes, dear mother." Grabbing a bun and stuffing it in his mouth, Luke Saint looked at his father and said, "Dad, the meat and medicine I put in the fridge before. Do you usually eat it?" His father replied happily, "Of course I do." "And what kind of supplements did you put in the fridge, Luke Saint?" He looked at the glass of water, a bit confused. "I drink it instead of water every day, and I feel so much healthier. My body feels as strong as it did when I was 20. It must be very expensive, right?" Luke Saint had already finished more than half the steamed bun and replied hastily, "It's not expensive. A friend who owns a pharmacy gave it to me. Their specialty is researching medicine for middle-aged people like you, Dad. You and Mom should remember to drink it regularly. Don't just use it as a substitute for water. I still have a lot more." Of course, his parents had no idea that their future daughter-in-law would be making the medicine. Then they would have to worry about not being able to finish it all. Hearing Luke Saint's words, his mother replied, Okay. Sheng is about to take the national exams, right? You don't need to go out anymore, do you?" The young man, with a happy expression, handed his empty bowl to his mother and replied, "I'm not going out anymore. I'll stay at home and wait for the national exams. Mom, can I have another bowl of rice, please?" Then followed the familiar scene of a young man fighting over food with his younger sister, just like before. His hands were busy with the food, his mouth chewing while he spoke. "Another bowl. You're too slow. How can you blame me?" His mother said, "Eat slowly. There's still more." His father chuckled, "Huh?" And his younger sister, Lu Qinghe, stood there watching her brother snatch all the food, helpless. "Big brother, why are you stealing the food from my bowl?" "Now what?" No matter what anyone said, the young Luke Saint still finished his bowl of food. Then he said, "Since I have nothing to do today, and the house is a bit small, let's go check out the new house after we finish eating." This sentence made the other 3 family members jump and exclaim in unison, "Huh?" The young man meant what he said. After eating his fill, he took his family to see the new house. Stepping into the new house, the whole family exclaimed, "Ah, this is too luxurious." Luke Saint stood with his hands on his hips, his face beaming, and said, "This is the new house I bought for us. What do you all think?" His father was worried about money and said, "The old house isn't bad. This house looks very expensive, son. We can't afford it." The young man replied confidently, "It's fine. I've been participating in various activities and competitions outside these past few months and earn a lot of prize money. This is just a part of it. There's still some money that hasn't been deposited into my account. I have thousands, even tens of thousands of yuan." Of course, he didn't mention the matter of driving the heavy-duty aircraft. His mother, hearing the huge number, felt dizzy and exclaimed, "What? How much money? Did I hear you right?" His father had a skeptical look on his face. "Xiaosheng, are you joking?" His younger sister was even more humorous when she asked, "Ah, did you really win that much money in 2 months, big brother?" Luke Saint ruffled his sister's hair and said, "Of course. Do you think I robbed a bank?" He continued to ruffle her hair and said, "All right, this new house is ours now. Mom and Dad, you can start moving your things in." His parents were so overjoyed they were moved to tears. "All right, Shenger has really brought honor to our ancestors. This is truly a blessing from heaven. This family has raised such a wonderful son." Luke Saint clenched his fist and said to Lu Qinghe, "Qinghe, you come with me. There's a training area behind the house. Let me see your current strength." His sister heard this and trembled, replying, "Why yes, brother." Without waiting to get to the training ground, Luke Saint grabbed his sister's head and dragged her away, which was quite funny. Unable to do anything about her brother, Lu Qinghe could only squirm. "Ouch, ouch, ouch, don't pull me. Let's go." Arriving at the training ground, Lu Qinghe was also very imposing. Because her stats had far surpassed Luke Saint's before, she appeared very strong. Luke Saint said calmly, "Don't just stand there and pose. Make your move." Hearing her brother's words, Lu Qinghe gathered her strength in her legs and jumped high. A powerful kick came down from above, while the young man stood there, arrogant and indifferent. As Lu Qinghe's foot approached, the young man controlled it with one hand. His sister, held in a split position, quickly hugged her leg. "Ouch, ouch, ouch." Luke Saint even criticized her, "Stand up straight. How can someone so useless be Luke Saint's sister?" Then she fell flat on the floor with an angry tone. "You're holding my leg. How can I stand up? You're already a level X martial artist, and I'm only level Y. I haven't even reached the official martial artist level yet." Her sister didn't care. She frowned and shouted, "You only know how to bully me. I'm not useless." Luke Saint then said seriously, "Stand up first. I'll teach you a few things. These are some techniques I've developed myself, very practical." Hearing this, the crocodile tears vanished. Lu Qinghe's eyes lit up as she asked, "Really? Is it a secret martial arts manual?" Lu Qing, seeing his sister's 180-degree turn, thought back. She was crying her eyes out just now. "It's like I have a different sister now." Then the young man replied to his sister, "You can consider it a secret martial arts manual. From now on, you do as I teach you. But you're absolutely not allowed to share it with anyone." Lu Qinghe was as happy as a pig in mud. She smiled, her eyes crinkling. "Yes, sir." The young man then instructed his sister and warned her, "Remember to circulate your chi here." But Lu Qinghe just stared at her brother, thinking, "No one has risen so quickly in just a few months like my brother. I'm both curious and skeptical. If I hadn't witnessed my brother's transformation from an ordinary high school student to his current level over the past few months, I definitely wouldn't have believed it." Then the stubborn young lady thought her brother was just lucky. "Although everyone thinks my brother suddenly had an epiphany, I always feel that he's definitely hiding some secret. My martial arts talent is definitely better than my brother's. Maybe I can uncover his secret too." She confidently thought to herself, "With my intelligence, I, Lu Qinghe, will definitely surpass my brother in the future. It won't be easy. Ha ha ha." But she didn't notice the young man looking at her with a cold gaze. Seeing his sister lost in thought and not focusing on her training, Luke Saint gave her a smack on the head. A loving tap, but it still made Lu Qinghe exclaim, "You hit my head again. You're going to make me shorter." The younger sister, Lu Qinghe, trained diligently, so much so that her whole body was covered in sweat. A moment later, she stopped her training. As soon as she let go, Lu Qinghe had to gasp for air because the exercise seemed too strenuous. The young Luke Saint stood with his arms crossed, watching his sister panting with a very amused expression. At this point, Lu Qinghe could no longer stand and lay sprawled on the ground. The young man laughed with delight and asked, "So, do you feel the effect yet?" Although Lu Qinghe was very tired, when asked, her eyes lit up and she clenched her fists. She sat up excitedly. Big brother, this is amazing. Where are these moves you taught me? The effect is truly incredible. I feel like training once has had more effect than 10 times before. The young Luke Saint thought to himself, what should I say to make my naive sister not dare to tell anyone? After a moment of pondering and racking his brain for a secret that couldn't be revealed to outsiders, the young man seemed to have found a way. With a nonchalant expression, he waved his hand and said, "It's just like what you usually practice, but it's the latest version." Lu Qinghe was a bit surprised. "Huh? The latest version? What's that?" The young Luke Saint continued to explain. "Well, it's like the phone and computer you're using now. They'll develop a 2.0 or 3.0 version. But in reality, in the company's research lab, they've already researched a 9.0 or even a 10.0 version. 2.0 is just for civilian use, a test phase. It will be a long time before it's officially released on the market, so you can't tell anyone." Hearing this, Lu Qinghe was startled, her body emitting a fiery aura. "Huh? Are you planning to use me as a guinea pig? You're a pro at scamming your own family." Luke Saint saw his sister's exaggerated expression, so the young man pinched his sister's cheek and lifted it, slowly saying, "An ordinary person wouldn't even have the chance to be a guinea pig for something this good. This body refining technique just hasn't been promoted yet. The content is already considered complete." Lu Qinghe held her face, which seemed to hurt a little, and asked worriedly, "But is it a bit dangerous? What if I'm not careful and train myself into a cripple?" The young man, Luke Saint, was helpless against his stubborn sister's constant worries and questions. He stood up and said, "I'm your brother. We were born from the same parents, so our physiques are quite similar. I've been training for so long. If anyone was going to become a cripple, it would have been me, long before you." Lu Qinghe didn't stop and continued to scratch her head, considering. "Then that's too bad. If our family has two cripples, who will take care of our parents? If you become a cripple first, at least I can take care of you." Hearing this from his sister, the young Luke Saint couldn't take it anymore. His face darkened, and his eyes turned red. The young man quickly chased after his sister as if she were a time bomb. "You get over here. Let me teach you what to do." Lu Qinghe ran while laughing. "I'm just kidding. Why are you so serious? Don't take it seriously, big brother." After running for a while, Lu Qinghe lay face down on the floor again. She asked, "Hey, big brother, if this body refining technique is so amazing, how did you get it? You didn't do anything illegal, did you?" The young Luke Saint replied seriously, "Of course not. Your big brother would never do anything illegal." The young Luke Saint playfully sat on his stubborn sister, pinning her to the floor, and then even bent Lu Qinghe's leg. Hearing her brother's actions, she cried out in pain, "Then let me go. You're about to kill your own sister, and you say you don't do anything illegal." Luke Saint also let go, as he couldn't stand his sister's squirming and terrified screams anymore. Lu Qinghe continued to raise her head and ask, "But this body refining technique, you teaching it to me, will there be any trouble?" The young man put on a serious face and replied, threatening his poor sister, "You're right. The person who taught me this technique said I must never teach it to anyone. Otherwise, not only me, but our whole family will be in trouble." Hearing this, Lu Qinghe was startled and exclaimed, "What? Then you've taught it to me. So that means—" Before Lu Qinghe could finish her sentence, Luke Saint looked like the most loving brother and replied, "I had no choice. You're my sister, after all." Luke Saint's deeply affectionate answer made Lu Qinghe's face turn red with emotion as she exclaimed, "Big brother." Luke Saint raised his hand and whispered, "As long as you keep this secret and don't let anyone find out, I think there won't be any problem. Remember, no matter who it is, your teacher, your best friend, or even your future husband, you can't tell them. This concerns your life and mine, and even our whole families." Hearing that the whole family was in danger, Lu Qinghe became very serious and understanding. Don't worry, big brother. I will absolutely not let anyone find out." Luke Saint, having successfully tricked his naive sister, was pleased. He stood up and said, "All right, I'll teach you a few more times. After you get used to it, remember to go back to your room and practice hard, you hear?" "All right, I'll go." Lu Qinghe glanced at the young man and thought, so Big Brother has been hiding in his room to practice this. Then she clenched her fists and dreamed excitedly. Haha, come on. My talent is stronger than Big Brother's. It's not impossible to surpass him in the future. Sigh, my acting skills should probably win a Nobel Prize. And the young man also thought smugly, my acting skills should probably win the award for Best Actor. Then Luke Saint turned, waved, and said to his sister, "I need to go out for a bit this afternoon. You stay home and practice well. I'll teach you combat when I get back." Lu Qinghe obediently replied, "Yes, sir." Cut to the Hai Tien Thin Yin restaurant. The researcher Luke Saint arrived at the meeting point and said to his future wife, Helena Ha, who was already waiting, "I'm sorry to have kept you waiting." Helena Ha was mentally prepared. She had ordered many plates of beef for the young man and said, "I know you like steak, so I intentionally ordered a lot for you." The young Luke Saint exclaimed, "Oh, you're so thoughtful." "Thank you," Luke Saint exclaimed. While Luke Saint was cutting his meat, his eyes were fixed on his future second wife as he asked, "How's the company's business lately?" Helena Ha replied, "The initial market price of the Spirit Foundation Strengthening Soup is $49,888. This price isn't exactly too high, but it's also a price that ordinary people can't afford. This is what I want to say to you all. My positioning for it is to target a customer base from mid to high end with a certain economic strength. The sales situation is not bad. The first batch of 2,000 Spirit Foundation strengthening pills on the market sold out in less than a week." The money-making expert Helena Ha happily continued. "Furthermore, the repurchase rate is also very high. I believe that after a while, its reputation will spread. It can definitely become a star product in the martial arts supplement circle of both Dongning Province and Baihe City." Luke Saint, while chewing on a piece of beef in his mouth, praised Helena Ha. "Well done. I'm very relieved to leave it to you." He continued, "So, are you still doing well financially?" "For now, I can manage, but I'll have to wait until the sales area expands. Then I'll definitely need to open a branch. At that time, I'll need a bank loan because I don't have much money left on hand. So how is it?" Of course, after eating, he continued to drink, but he didn't forget to take the opportunity to talk business with his future wife. "In a while, I'll give you some money. You don't need to worry too much about the previous amount." Helena Ha paid attention and replied, "Then I'll have to rely on you." Suddenly, she leaned over and asked, "Oh, right, isn't it almost time for your national exams?" Luke Saint wasn't worried at all and replied calmly, "That's right. So during this time, I won't be going out and will focus on preparing for the exams. The business will have to rely entirely on you." Luke Saint suddenly remembered he had just moved and also reminded Helena Ha, "Oh, right, I'm moving in a few days. I'll send you the new address then." Facing Luke Saint, Helena Ha was sweating because she was so confused. "Almost forgot. Welcome to our video." The young man exuding an imposing aura with every gesture before me is actually just a high school student who hasn't even taken the national exams yet. Now I can't see through him at all. She sipped her wine and thought to herself, if it were me half a year ago, I would never have imagined handing over the entire fate of the Hoff family to him. But based on the current situation, my decision was not wrong. Haha, that's right. How could it be wrong to entrust your future to your future husband? Then she also said, after a moment of thought, Helena Ha stood up and said, "If there's nothing else, I'll be leaving now." "All right, goodbye." Before leaving, Helena Ha suddenly remembered, "Oh right, Ma Fei has been promoted to store manager by me." Ma Fei was very proud at this moment. This great master is also getting rich. Hearing this, Luke Saint completely trusted his future wife's decision and said, "You're the boss. Well then, I'm off." But Luke Saint had also finished eating at this point. Following Helena Ha's retreating figure, the young man thought to himself, Helena Ha's company is my most important source of income and also a place where I can secretly create future supplements. As for whether Helena Ha would betray me after becoming successful, I'm not worried at all. The Ha family, on the surface, is a calm sea without a single ripple. But in reality, they're entangled in troubles and will sooner or later come to me for help. Luke Saint's face was full of contemplation. Even without those external pressures, what Luke Saint can give, he can certainly take back. And the most important thing right now is to increase my own strength. After thinking, the young man called the beautiful waitress and said, "Waiter, give me 50 portions of steak to go." The young man clenched his fist resolutely. A weapon for my psychic power, the custom-made martial blade, the astral body refining art, the immortal golden body needs to break through to the next step. With these things, the next time I meet that Grandmaster Martial Goddess. Luke Saint's face was serious and determined.